Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. In India won this first test in Nagpur by a huge margin. In innings in 132 runs, there was a lot of talk on how the surface would play, especially when the spinners would be bowling to the left-handers. But India's left-handers, both Ravindra Jadeja and Akshar Patel, played brilliant knocks in the innings that India batted, 17 and 84 respectively. And what their partnership did was that India were actually 240 for 7 at the start of their partnership, and by the end they were 328 for 8. There was a decent chunk of overs left on day two when they first kind of started their partnership. And by the end of day two, I thought that India could win the game or would win the game in day three itself. And after 60 odd overs in day three, we got to the closure that we got to. And yeah, that's what their partnership did. And really from the start, you kind of thought India were never going to kind of struggle in terms of the momentum they had during the game. I thought there was only the one partnership between Smith and Labuschagne in the first innings where you kind of thought, with how assured they looked, with how good they've been batting in the last few years, then you think that if they do get more into their innings, then it will be difficult to dismiss them. Could Australia get? Yes, there'll be a huge amount of pressure on those two to get Australia a decent first inning score, but with how capable those two are and how well they've been going. What if they did kind of give that kind of a contribution? Then the game could have maybe taken a different roadmap. But the moment one of those two were dismissed, then you kind of thought it was once again India were kind of on the ascendancy. And even during the partnership between Peter Hanscom and Alex Carey, India still thought, right, we've got the quality to thwart this application of pressure from the opposition. And then they did in the end. And Indian Ashwin dismissed Alex Carey. So I think that, apart from the partnership between Smith and Labuschagne, India always felt they had answers for whatever Australia threw at them, and we did see that. And on the Indian bowling, the talk was on the spinners. And just to put things into context, you've got four top quality finger spinning all-rounders in Ravichandran Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, and Washington Sundar, who wasn't playing this game. And you've got a pure wrist spinner in Kuldeep Yadav. That's five top quality spinning options. And then in the seam bowling department, I think that in Test match cricket, if you're looking to bowl in all conditions, I actually think Indian seamers probably are the best pace bowling commodities in Test match cricket. Simply because of situation. I think where they've had to play their cricket before arriving at the international setup, they've had to play cricket where you'd think they'd most likely play second fiddle a lot of the time to the spinners, and therefore you have to develop skills to be effective in those conditions. And you've got bowlers like Mohammad Shami, Mohammad Siraj playing this game, and Umesh Yadav, who didn't play in this game, his record in India is fabulous. So you've got someone like a Mohammad Shami who, when he goes to somewhere like a South Africa, he'd relish playing in those conditions. And when he plays in India, you've got the reverse swing that he offers, and he still becomes a very potent option, or still is a very potent option. I think with the fact that they know how to bowl in different conditions based on situation as well from early on. You've got premier seamers from other countries playing a second fiddle role in these conditions because they just can't quite crack the code. But you've got players who've grown up in this part of the world and therefore can be effective in that part of the world and overseas as well. So that's why I think as seam bowling commodities in Test match cricket, I think Indian seamers are the ones that are right up there as the best in my view. And that's why there is no respite in this attack. You saw that with the first two wickets as well. Mohammad Shami's delivery to David Warner. And yeah, that was Australia's first innings, 177 all out. And with India's innings, Rohit Sharma started off in a counter-attacking fashion, got to 50 odd very quickly, and then slowed down and really was, for a long while, the backbone of this innings, a magnificent 120. I think that, honestly, when in the last while since he has returned to playing Test cricket, him playing at home, and generally the overall record he has playing Test matches at home, even when the services have been quite challenging. I think it's a magnificent record, and yeah, once again, a fantastic innings from him here. I mean, didn't put a foot wrong really until the last two balls of his innings, and then a couple of 20s. KL Rahul with a slightly unconvincing 20, to be honest. Savichandran Ashwin walked out as a night watchman from I think day one and scored a 23. And at one point, Australia got India to 168 for 5. Now, I thought, right, they still had the likes of KS Bharat, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, who you saw how well the latter two went. But so I thought India could still kind of add some vital runs on the board. That too with Rohit Sharma still batting at that point in time. So I still thought India weren't in that bad of a position. But after that point, with India adding as much runs as they did after that point to get 400, I think it really shows how well Jadeja and Akshar Patel have played. And I do think from an Indian point of view, I'm not surprised that we have seen this kind of a scorecard. I mean, with the record that Rohit Sharma has in home tests, and you've got Ravindra Jadeja, who ever since that 86 not out in Southampton in 2018, and I've mentioned this many times, he's been a different batsman in all formats of the game that he's played. So, yeah, I'm not surprised with how well he's gone with the bat once again. And Akshar Patel, even we've seen in white ball cricket how well he's gone with the bat in the last one. Once again today, a brilliant innings from him in this test match. But you're looking at the middle order. I think that there's probably, 3 out of the top 6 from this 11. You probably don't know what you're going to get from them in each innings. I thought they'd play Shubman Gill to open. He's got the recent form. His test stocks are on the rise. I thought KL Rahul would play at number 5 for this game, but they include Suryakumar Yadav in the side. And I think, look, I mean, the reason why I'm saying you don't know what you're going to get from him is because you've got other players there who average in the 50s in the domestic seasons in India. And you've got a Mayank Agarwal who Karnataka have actually exited the Ranji Trophy and in the semi-finals, despite the fact that he scored a rescuing 249 in the first innings. You've got someone like him who's a fantastic player of spin, has done well for so long, and ever since he's had that record-breaking season in the Ranji Trophy. I'd say since about 2019 or so, I think his career really has risen. You got someone like him playing as well as he is. I just think that there are other players who you can give that opportunity to. Just because Suryakumar Yadav plays magnificently in T20, just because he's a good sweeper of the ball, I don't think you can play him in Test cricket against a Nathan Lyon, for example. So I just think there are other players who you can give that spot to. KL Rahul, if he isn't opening, I mean, it's either been when he scored the overseas hundreds that he scored. It's just the talent has just shone through. I mean, I've spoken highly enough about KL Rahul. I mean, I believe that he is the most talented batsman in the world, and when he plays ball, there is no one who can even go anywhere near as to what he does. But in Test cricket, apart from a few innings, things haven't exactly gone that great. I at least thought if he plays he shouldn't open, but they opened with him in this game, and a very unconvincing 20, and been not a great dismissal at all. So I don't think he would get a game from the next game if Pretend Shreyas plays at number 5, but if they want to, that's interesting now, because you'd probably think Suryakumar Yadav wouldn't play in the next game in the picture, I said there. And you may even think Shubman Gill would come in for KL Rahul, which I do think will those two inclusions will benefit the side more. And I've said what I've said on Virat Kohli before, where yes, an unlucky dismissal in this game, but I do think that without the fundamentals being strong, it would be a challenge playing against someone like a Nathan Lyon when the services have some turn in them. Let's see how he goes in the next few innings, but like I said, with the fundamentals not being strong, I mean, if any, you don't want to be going into this kind of a test match environment against a spinner like Nathan Lyon, where the ball is turning, and have your fundamentals not being strong. So yeah, that's on that. So even though India scored 400 in this innings that they had the opportunity to play, I think that the middle order still, I'm not too sure on how many contributions you can get on a consistent basis. At least with three of those players that we saw in this game, I don't think you know what you're going to get. And another positive for for Australia was, of course, Todd Murphy was 7 for 124 and 47 overs. I think he would tell you himself that the wickets were probably more on how the batsman responded to his deliveries. I thought outside of the wickets, he still, showed some good signs, and he still got hit towards the end as well, and still went at 2.63 over 47 overs, which I think is a good return. And even without the wickets, I thought he showed some good enough signs. I mean, him and Nathan Lyon going at kind of roughly that 2.5 and over mark each, but with India getting the amount of runs that they got, it was always going to be difficult for Australia, despite what those two tried to do. And I think that after that point, I'm not surprised that whatever happened. 91 all out. And Steve Smith carrying the bat in the innings at 25 or 51. But really, there's too much pressure on Labuschagne and Smith. I mean, as capable as they are, in this part of the world, if you're playing in Australia, like I said, you look at the form of the players who you kind of discount in this part of the world, and you think they've been in very good form. You look at Usman Khawaja, how good of a form he's been in Australia. He comes to India, and you got a Travis Head who didn't play this game. You look at how good of a form that he's been in Australia, and in Pakistan he did well as well recently, and you just think, it's just no matter what they've done in their own backyard, the only two players who really seem who could do anything much in this situation are Smith and Labuschagne, and I think that's what their batting will rely on. You've got a Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Starc potentially back in the next test, and maybe what Scott Boland did, hitting a length in this game, and they found it quite hard to score off him, and you think Josh Hazlewood could do that. But apart from that, maybe Australia would want to play a third spinner potentially. I don't know how that would work out looking at the composition of the side. Maybe if they play Travis Head, he could offer something as well. So I'm not sure how they'll be able to play a third frontline spinner in the side with the way things are. But yeah, let's see how they go. The next game is in Delhi. I think things will be roughly the same. But yeah, I mean, I'm still going for another India win. And the only chance Australia really have is, of course, if, Nathan Lyon gets on a roll with the ball. And two is, like I said, if Smith and Labuschagne go well, in my view, they outbat the entirety of the Indian top six. And if they do well, which they have every capability to do so, they've got the fundamentals to do so, then let's see what happens. But I just think it'll be too much for them to do. So yeah, that's on that. And let's see what happens in the second test. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?